Welcome to another year of the 25 days of MMR Xmas. If you're new here, let me give you the gist. What happens is that every day from December 1st to December 25th, I will post one holiday film review in the lead up to the big holly jolly day. Welcome to day 5. Iron Man 3 is a 2013 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character Iron Man, produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney. It is the sequel to Iron Man, which came out in 2008, and a sequel to Iron Man 2, which came out in 2010, and the 7th film of the MCU. The film was directed by Shane Black, from the screenplay he co-wrote with Drew Pearce, and stars Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, / Iron Man, Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Guy Pearce, Rebecca Hall, Stefan Stastak, I apologize if I made that wrong, James Dale, Jon Favreau, and Ben Kingsley. In Iron Man 3, Tony Stark wrestles with the ramifications of the events of the Avengers during a national terrorism campaign on the United States led by the mysterious Mandarin. Okay, look, I know this isn't a traditional Christmas film, but it takes place during Christmas season, so it can fit the criteria like a certain movie with John McClane can, you know? So if that can be considered a Christmas movie, this is a Christmas movie too, damn it. But anyways, Iron Man 3 is a fun film. If I had to rank it in the Iron Man trilogy, I'd put this second next to the first film. I have no love for the second film. All love goes to the first and third one. The third film is an action-packed thrill ride. It really feels like we're watching the evolution of Tony Stark in these, 3 films specifically. Especially, this is like the culmination of his arc. Especially, we haven't had a solo Iron Man movie in like 7 years at the time of this review. So we don't know what's going to happen with the character. Well, we do know what happens, but we don't know what's going to happen to Iron Man, Iron Woman. We just don't know. What I loved about Iron Man 3 were the same reasons why I loved the first film. It had solid action sequences that were fun to watch in theaters. The acting was fun to watch. Robert Downey Jr. kills it again as Tony Stark. He is like the best person to play that role. Now, you can't see anyone else playing Iron Man or Tony Stark. Everyone else did a fine job too in their supporting roles. I thought they were good. And the last thing that I enjoyed from this film would have to be the comedy. I'm going to say this right now. A lot of the MCU movies I feel like aren't that funny. I don't find myself laughing as much as I want to. I know that's a controversial hot take, but that's my hot take. But Iron Man 3 is an exception because it's like there were times where I just laughed for a few seconds. I'm just like, that was actually pretty funny. So I think Iron Man 3 is probably the funniest MCU film that I've seen, like to this day, even with all in like 7 years. That's the one that has genuinely made me laugh the most. I want to say that. The only big, in all capitalizations, big downside that I had with this film was the villain. If you've seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The main villain is the Mandarin, but it's not really the Mandarin from the comics that we know, although they couldn't pull that off because it was a big stereotypical Asian racist. But yeah, I'm not going to spoil it because people, surprisingly enough, it's a 7-year-old movie, you haven't seen it yet. But if you haven't seen what they've done with the Mandarin, or you've seen, well, know what I'm talking about, it's just like, wow, really? Okay. It's just, I think that really brought the movie down a little bit for me because I wanted a good, compelling villain in the Iron Man series. Iron Man 3 was released May 3rd, 2013 on a budget of $200 million, and after its run at the box office, it would go on to make a whopping $1.215 billion, becoming the second highest grossing film of 2013, and at the time, it would fall into the 6th highest grossing film of all time. I did not know this film made $1 billion, honestly. When I looked back, I thought it was wild. Overall, Iron Man 3 is, for me, one of my favorite MCU films. I wouldn't put it over, the Avengers movies or even something, maybe like a couple of the Captain America movies and like Spider-Man maybe, but it's definitely in the place of like, this is one of my favorite MCU films. I feel like it doesn't get enough respect that it deserves. People just shrug this off as like the third of the series, that the only good movie was the first one, but no, this one holds up too. I say give it a rewatch if you have time. You got Disney Plus, you want to go on the MCU binge before Black Widow, watch Iron Man 3. And I'm going to give Iron Man 3 an 8.5 out of 10.